Once again, my name is Irina Rubinčika, and I am the Investment and Development Agency of Latvia representative here in Israel for 2 years already. It's nice welcoming you, everyone, mostly the Latvian HealthTech ecosystem community here, and also our distinguished experts of healthcare and health tech from both Latvia and Israel at our webinar today. A little notice about the housekeeping rules. I would please ask everyone to turn off your microphones so that during the presentations of our guests, we do not have the background noise. If you can please ensure that your microphone is turned off, that would be great. Thank you very much. The meeting time is maximum 1 hour and a half. We might finish earlier, depending on questions. Regarding questions, you are very welcome to type your question in the chat box, or after all the presentations are finished, to just raise the hand in the Teams and ask your question. But don't receive 10 of your questions via registration form. Thank you very much for those. And we will address them after all our experts will finish their presentations. A couple of words about the goal of this event, why this webinar is taking place today. The webinar actually stems from the Precision Medicine Forum that took place in Riga last week, and Professor Shai Izraeli and Dr. Vadim Ratner participated live in Riga in this forum, and the other experts that join us today online moved to the online format. This is the opportunity actually to connect and contact them. This event will be a great opportunity for the Latvian ecosystem, for all the distinguished participants from Latvia to have a look at a glance at the Israeli health tech ecosystem and see what are those partners, co-founders, potential joint project founders for consortia or startup establishing, right? Also, even potential investors for your projects. I will now start sharing the screen. So just a little introduction of the. Do you see the screen? So.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for the mark. And do you see it changing?
No, Irina.
No.
Okay, now yes.
Yes. So I will do a little definition so that we all are on one page. I myself must acknowledge that it was kind of confusing, these two verticals of the modern high-tech ecosystem. And I kept hearing at many conferences and many events in Israel, HealthTech and MedTech, going all together. But actually, HealthTech is focused on medical technology and software solutions that help both healthcare providers and patients. And MedTech is more focused on medical devices development. But of course, both of these verticals are multidisciplinary and they intersect many times. A glimpse at Israeli ecosystem. What's in it for Latvian potential partners? First of all, based on my experience working here in Israel with Israeli partners, I see that Israeli ecosystem is actually a gate to the global market. If not each of Israeli-based startup and founder go globally, they scale up mostly in the United States, of course, but not only. America, Europe, and Asia is the market for people who are working in innovative companies here in Israel. What else is in Israeli health tech ecosystem for you? These are 1,600 innovative companies in health tech in Israel. More than 700 are working in digital health technologies, including AI, of course, and mostly maybe. More than 600 startups and companies are working in medtech, mostly developing medical devices and software connected to that. And more than 400 companies are working in pharma industry. But besides that, we have, of course, the world-leading academia, universities in Israel. We have a great support of the governmental institutions, of course, more than 70 hubs, including accelerators and incubators, working with health tech in Israel, and healthcare providers that are wide open for cooperation, offering, for example, patient data for research, mining. Multinational corporations, MNCs, they are more than 400 in Israel, even in these critical times when the war is ongoing here. Their R&D research and development centers established by NVIDIA, IBM, Microsoft, Google, you name it, are continuing working with Israeli researchers here. And of course, investment funds. Financial support is essential for everyone who is thinking of a business case and starting a business in any of the high-tech verticals. And there are around 250 investment funds, and Dr. Irit Yaniv will tell us more on how are they actually working. Now I would like to switch to Dr. Emīls Sjundjukovs' presentation. I'll stop sharing this and share one more.
Hi, Irina. Yes. Just a second. So, oh, okay, now I can see the screen. Very good. Yeah, I can see the screen. Yes, yes. So, still not a doctor, but going there. So, still need to defend my thesis. Nevertheless, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good, good. You can hear me. That's very good. Then I can, okay, so I can see the PDF now. So maybe you can put it on full screen. Good, okay. Okay, good. So let's put it on full screen and then I can start with the first slide. Yeah, let's switch before, slides before, yeah. Good. Hi, everyone. And sorry for the background noise and everything else. I'm in UAE for 2 weeks, but nevertheless, very happy to be here. Irina, thank you for the invitation. And so happy to see, so many both Latvian and Latvian delegation people from the healthcare sphere, as well as distinguished speakers from Israel. So I will tell you a bit more about our company and what we do. So being from Latvia, but working on international market, both in the Middle East as well as Europe. So Longenesis is a digital health company, and our aim is to accelerate therapies time to patients through data. And let me explain what I mean by that. So let's go to the next slide, Irina. Yeah, so it's not a secret, most probably for all of the participants, that designing and bringing a novel therapy, a new drug, a new methods to the market, to the patients is extremely hard, time-consuming, and also monitor resource-consuming process. And even after all of the jungles within the clinical trials, it's still hard to get the therapies to patients. It takes years to do that. So the industry is in need for the innovative ways how we can both identify the patients eligible for certain therapy, both partially or fully. How can we launch post-launch studies? Actually, once the drug is being received by the patients, how can we collect the data and the proof and the insights that are related to certain outcomes, supporting the therapy effectiveness and supporting the claims needed for reimbursement? And third of all, how can we accompany the therapy with the digital solutions? Because currently the concept of just one patient, one pill is a bit outdated. So we'll look into the patient 360 concept, where digital tools and digital technology is a crucial part as a companion for the therapy. So in the whole of this process, Longenesis is there to help. Next slide, please. Yep, cool. So Longenesis is a digital health company working with use and reuse of health data for also secondary purposes to support licensed companies, health institutions for data. So we're the largest digital health startup in Baltics. We empower more than 850,000 patients so far and counting. More than 100 patient engagement programs were launched so far, and we also have 2 national level programs in our shoulders. So ICE certified AWS partners. And next slide. Yes. So it's one ecosystem, but 2 parts of that. So the first one is how can we initiate certain collaboration? How can we discover the data that we need to support certain claims, to support certain hypotheses? And we designed a solution called Curator, which is a real-time data discovery tool following data stays local principle, meaning that you can look and stratify and discover data points in real time from multiple locations, multiple sites, multiple countries, while data stays local, meaning that we do follow all of the privacy, security, and sensitivity concerns. That allows us to work in multiple geographies at the same time. So basically, this platform helps researchers, health institutions, academia, registries, biobanks to showcase what type of data points do they have to attract more research to their sites without compromising any privacy concerns. And the second part, next slide, is a platform to actually generate real-world evidence data points. So it is used in order to engage patients, support patients, collect the data, and turn this data into the actionable insights. Next one, and the slide next one as well. And leave this more for R&D investment. So we continuously invest in R&D in the region. We invested more than 2 million euros actually into the R&D so far. But nevertheless, let me give you some examples. So I think one of the good examples is our partnership with Novartis. So we happy to support 3 therapeutic areas where our solution is and will be used as the digital support tool for patients in breast, in cardiovascular, and multiple sclerosis domains. Next one. So it's one ecosystem, but many use cases. So we try to design the solution in a way that it can be used as a sandbox to initiate the studies, initiate the patient engagement mechanism without any coding needs. So you go there, you drag and drop different interaction modules. And this is why we support many therapeutic areas and many clients in our portfolio already. In oncology, cardiometabolic, neurology, psychiatry. Next one, women's health, genomics, and many more. Next one, please. Yes. On another side, it's our work with health institutions. So we work with hospitals, clinics, labs, registries, biobanks to support the patient journey and to collect data and support both patients and clinicians with data and with the insights. So we created the platform Engagement, which is a sandbox. We support more than 160 use cases, starting from previous engagement, where we cut time for the monotone and bureaucratic visit to the doctor, where they can use the data prior to the visit, engage patients in data collection, then turn their head and see and run real-time data patient stratification or identify certain risk facts. After visit assessment, creation of registries, patient-reported outcomes, patient-reported experience, collection measures, etc., etc. And some of the examples later on. Next slide. I just, extrapolate this more for the use of the Middle East, but it will, I think, quite support my thoughts. The first one is related to prevention. So October is Breast Cancer Prevention Month, and we launched this initiative several years ago with more than 20,000 women engaged in breast cancer prevention in Baltics. And the concept was that our tool was used to design this digital pathway, meaning that we engage broader population in understanding, in education, and also receiving personalized reports based on the data collected. And we urge them to conversation to go to the GP, gynecologist, the practitioner, or also participate in follow-up studies such as genomic studies of hereditary mutations or any other studies through dynamic consent form. And we're happy to launch the same initiative. Next slide. We're happy to launch the same initiative later this year in the UAE, but we have already launched the same initiative in Poland, Lithuania, and Estonia. So you can check out screening.ld or and learn more about that. It's available in multiple languages. Next one. Yes. It's not only about one hospital, but also national level initiatives. This is partially why I'm here in UAE. It's because of our work with the company M42, which is part of Badala. We support their flagship project of Emirate Genome. Basically, they're using our ecosystem to onboard, engage, and re-engage population in personalized health, preventative health, research per se, and basically our tool are used to support the creation of world's largest genome bank, with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of participants being engaged on a continuous manner and still counting. The next one. Yeah, so this is our team. We are medical doctors, PhDs, computer scientists. Academic track record, more than half of us worked in scientific institutions before. So we changed, this virtual hat to more the industrial startup one, but we do publish as well. So we have quite a good academic track record. I assume that one of the best in terms of startups in our region. And we also do have experience in creating solutions reimagining care in APAC region in US and UK beforehand. So we raised $2.5 million before. We're now raising $5 million. We already reached both break-even last year and now are profitable. Next one. Yeah, so this is our advisory board. Some of the people that might know, might be not. We include people starting from, the pioneers of AI and drug discovery, actually Alex, born in Latvia, but who founded a company in silica medicine. They are now FDA approved multiple phase 2 drug candidates with preliminary result being positive, actually, fully designed, the whole pipeline was designed by AI, which is quite amazing. Check this out. Miro, the former C-level executive from Roche, and the ex-minister of health, Daniels. So next one. Yeah. And in order to finish, it's not about only GCC region, but basically our main aim is to erase the geographical borders for healthcare research. It's extremely hard to collaborate in terms of reusing of data even in one country. And Latvia is not the only case. In many countries it is the case. So with our tools, we do see that cross-border research is possible, and we can accelerate this 6 times faster. And this is what we try to do. So we try to push this forward, and we do see that we're taking the good positions in oncology, cardiometabolic, women's health. So that's quickly about us. Irina, yeah, we can switch to the next slide. Thank you, slide. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your attention. I'd be happy to, if you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to address those. And you wanted me to tell a couple of words about Latvian ecosystem, all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so maybe we can stay here because I don't think that it's whether it will be interesting or not about the slides per se, but I can tell a couple of words from startup perspective and innovation perspective. Why Latvia? Why we are in Latvia, as well as why people can come to Latvia to work. Maybe that and work and collaborate. Maybe that will be quite interesting for the for the visitors of the webinar. So I think, we did have several struggles, and we still do. But in terms of digitalization per se in the country, we're quite in a good position in the first half of the world. I think the crucial part now is that the Ministry of Health has now designated the mission and the vision to digitize healthcare and data analytics and the whole pipeline, and create a roadmap to a new institution, which is a Latvian digital health center or competence center per se. And starting next year, there will be dedicated people and dedicated team working on that, working on creation of the roadmap, the guidelines, as well as the governance of the sector of digital health. And this, in my opinion, might be a good, momentum for the companies who wish to collaborate with Latvia or Baltic states to actually come and work together. We, as a startup, have thought many times whether, it is the right place and the right time to start the company back in 2018. And, between choosing, of leaving Latvia, creating a company in Latvia, we chose the second one, to create a company in Latvia. And I think that a good part for also Israeli companies is that Latvia is a part of EU. Our hospitals are a part of, the largest associations in Europe, like as an example, ECHO, European Children's Hospitals Organization, or, the adult care is also being represented there. And it's a good door opener. It's a good market entry. If you wish to work in a single market of Europe, you may want to consider actually working through Irina, working through LIAA, or directly with the healthcare institutions or academic institutions to get into collaborations. So also our biobank is an example. Yeah, it's not the largest in the world, but still we are a part of a part of the multinational consortium. So by collaborating through the biobank, you can get into the larger network. And this was part of our strategy. We did, invest a lot of time and resources to work with the local players, with local partners, establish good relationships, showcase the results both academically and industrially. And this really helped us to scale both therapeutic area-wise as well as geography-wise. And I think this is something that, might be quite an interesting thing for you. So capital-wise, for sure, Israel is much broader being represented, both in terms of early stage as well as, later stage funds. A good thing is that we have startup support programs. I think Irina is the best person to tell about that. And second of all, we now will have pre-seed, I think also seed acceleration fund, meaning that they have a KPI to invest in companies in the region, meaning that if you are to both establish or cooperate in the field of healthcare or digital health in Baltics, in Latvia in particular, for sure, this is a really right momentum to do this. Yeah, with this in mind, Irina, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Emil. Thank you very much for sharing your actually remarkable success story. This is one of the examples how you can achieve such results in Latvia. Sharing the next couple of slides for now Dr. Irit Yaniv, CEO of Almeda Ventures, public venture capital fund in Israel. Thank you very much, Dr. Yaniv, for sharing your time with us. Dr. Yaniv is experienced and accomplished senior executive in the medtech industry, entrepreneur in nature. She has founded herself 2 medical devices companies and a Launchpad program to promote women leadership. She's heavily involved in the Israeli ecosystem, taking an active part in Israeli and international HealthTech conferences, and as well as 8400 project. It's also another program. To you in sharing? Yes, I am. So, Dr. Reed, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I can unmute myself. So you actually gave me a very nice overview, but today, and this is what I'm going to speak about, is my main job is a CEO of Almeda Ventures. We are doing medical device and digital health investment in Israel. And I'm very glad to be here. And as you can hear from my lecture, I am a great believer in collaboration and partnership. And I think this is the source for success. And so I think about this opportunity just as the first step towards wonderful collaboration going forward. So I studied medicine and I moved from being a doctor to being an investor. On my way, I work in several medical device companies. I manage a couple of companies, and I form 2 companies in the field of medical device, specifically in metabolic field. One focusing on type 2 diabetes, Digma, and the other one on obesity, Nitinots. On my way to the top, as I call it, I found myself many times alone. And I will speak about the program that we have founded 5 years ago to help women to get into managerial leadership. And please, let's start to see what is in Almeda and what is in Israel. So Almeda was established 4 years ago. We went for a very unique structure that was at that time enable us to raise money from the public. So Almeda Venture is a public venture fund. Our units, our participating units are traded in Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. We have raised almost $30 million from the public. We are 3 people, very experienced one, me, Amir Blatt, and Tzachi Sultan. We are 3 people that are involved either in medical device, digital health, financial field. And all of us created a team that invested in the last 4 years in 10 portfolio companies in HealthTech. So we have 4 companies in digital health, 5 companies in medical device, and 1 company in bioconversion. And at the moment, we are oversighting these companies and hoping for success to 1 or more. We have created a collaboration with global funds and multinational corporations, as we believe that without such collaboration, we cannot help our companies to grow and to do an exit. And Irina and Emil spoke about it before. Any Israeli companies are looking into going abroad, going outside of Israel, either to Europe, either to Asia, and mainly to the US. Next. So where I come from is Israel, and Israel HealthTech or Israel Tech. Let's start with the tech, with the global tech. We have more than 7,000 companies. And why I'm starting with the global tech? Because many of the ideas that are grown in the tech field are moving slowly to the health tech. And the health tech industry in Israel actually was based, the origin of the industry was originally came from the army. Many ideas that they developed in the army as tech ideas came later on and went into the health tech. And that's why when I speak about the health tech, I always start with the tech. So the tech is huge in Israel. We are speaking about more than 7,000 companies today and more than 200 active investors. The health tech itself is also growing. For the last year, it was stable, and I will speak a little bit about the war and what happened during the war. But still, even with the war, even with the corona previously, we are showing that resilience and a lot of innovation. There are few funds that some of them you see here, some of the name, Our Crowd, Grove, Peregrine, Iron Nation, and Vertex that invested more than 3 or 4 investments the last year. So the industry itself is still kicking, although all the challenges that we are facing. And if you go into the next slide, you will see the war effect. So we do have difficult times in Israel, and Irina, before starting this, said that she might have an azaka, which is an alarm that will cause her to go to the shelter. But although these alarms, although this interfering with our daily life, we see a lot of success that is coming from Israel. So in the last year, in 24, where we experienced the war, we saw 2 mega investment rounds, one from HealthTech that raised more than $100,000. And the other one is a VC-backed company, Magenta. By the way, HealthTech is a public company, Magenta is a private company, and Magenta raised more than $100 million. So mega rounds are still there. And not only mega rounds, we have industry that cause multinational to come and acquire our companies. So in the last year, in HealthTech only, because there were many more on cyber, but in HealthTech only, we experienced 3 M&As, large M&As, V-Wave in the field of cardiology, Belkin Vision in the field of ophthalmology, and Innovav again in cardiology. All of them were more than $300 million. All of them were acquired by a very distinguished acquirer such as Edwards or Johnson & Johnson. So the industry itself is still kicking, although the war. Innovation exists, although the war. So why Israel became like this? So next slide. So I was looking for a recipe to give you because, Irina told me, okay, what can we do? So I think in Israel, we have a unique society and culture. We have a lot of ideas that are coming and nobody is saying no to an idea. Actually, we say, yes, let's try it. We are not afraid of failure. We would like to fail because we learn from failure. We have this word of chutzpah. We are willing to ask, we are willing to take the risk in order to make it. Nobody will tell you, no, this is impossible. If someone tells you this is impossible, I will go to another route and I will look for a way to do it. And the second point is global first market approach. And Irina mentioned it. We always look on what will be the market in the US, how they will see the product. We are not satisfied with Israel only. And that gives us the possibility to grow and to bring large ideas. We are not, Israel is 10 million people population. That's not enough. We would like to go for US, we would like to go and take Europe with our product. So we always look outside. We have a lot of government support that help the very little ideas, the seeds to start. And we used to have strong economy. Hopefully it will come again, but this is one of the things. In general, we have human capital. So we believe that the people itself, those are the ones that are doing it. And from the time since I started to work with Irina and the team that manage those webinars and panel, I understand that you have the Latvian, you do have something that similar or mimic what we have, and I believe that you can succeed as well. So, okay, you have a startup. What would be the tip that I will give you in order to succeed? So next slide. And Emil spoke about it a lot, so I'm not going to spend too much time. I think there are two tips. One is collaboration, and second one is diverse team. Try to have as many people that are coming from different fields, engineers, medical director, biologists, pharmacists. All of them will bring something for your startup. That's the first one. And the second one, build up collaboration. Build up collaboration with R&D centers. Build up collaboration with multinational, with investors. As many collaboration as you build up, this will contribute to the success of your startup. And the successful startup are those that have many investors on one hand. They are working with different company on the other perspective. They have people that are managing the startup that are coming from different fields. And this, in my eyes, are the two tips that I can give you in order to help you to be successful in your startup, in your next company. Next. So one of the things that I found that we are missing when we speak about diverse team is insufficient amount of women in the leadership field, in the leadership stage. And in order to take care of this problem, I, together with 3 other managers, women managers, we have created a program to help women to get into the leadership stage. So this is a program that now we are now 5 years inside the program. We have more than 100 women that graduated from the program, and we see a lot of success of them adopting skills in order to make them CEOs or CFOs or any other job that are at the top. And I always speak about it because I think that at the end of the day, if you have women and men working together, this will create a success. So the last question Irina asked me is to give you, okay, what kind of fields I'm going to invest in the near future. So if you go to the next slide, that will disclose all the things that I believe will change the way we consume medicine. All of them are technology, general technology, but each of them will cause us to change the way we will consume medicine. And that's why in each of these fields, if you are expert in that field and you will be connected to a doctor, physician, clinician, you two together can create a startup and build up a startup that may change medicine. So we are speaking about remote monitoring. We are speaking about using those smartphones for telemedicine and application. The ability to do image processing quickly and very accurately. AI, we just heard about a startup that is using an AI in a very sophisticated way, virtual reality. Also, in connection to the conference that was just completed, precision medicine is depending on genetics. Robotics are all over, and we will see them more and more in medicine. And last but not least is the 3D printing. We are using more and more 3D printing to enable us to do procedure and correction to the body that we have never been able to do before. So I'm sending my thanks to all of you, and this is the next slide. And I'm encourage you, to take an idea, sit together with a friend, a colleague from a different field, and come up with an idea that will change medicine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yaniv, for your presentation, for sharing these insights with us. I hope many people will get inspired by them and can start thinking about their use cases and business cases straight away. The next speaker is Dr. Vadim Ratner, the IBM R&D Research and Development Center AI researcher. The center is located in Haifa University, and Dr. Ratner specializes in software development, image processing research, image denoising, super resolution, object detection, image analysis, and medical image segmentation. These are just some of those topics that Dr. Ratner is working on. And he has been to Riga Precision Medicine Forum, speaking there at the panels, talking to potential Latvian partners and colleagues of him. I'm not sure if Dr. Vadim is switching on his microphone. I still see Dr. Irit.
I think I should be able. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Well, first of all, Irina, thank you for your kind introduction. And it's a real pleasure to speak in front of so many young entrepreneurs, students, medical professionals. It's really a privilege. Now, before I start my talk, I'd like to establish a timeline of sorts, because I'll be mainly talking about AI, and AI as a field has been created in the 1950s. The term itself was coined back then, but until 2012, nothing really exciting happened there in terms of actual products. As a matter of fact, the only product I can think of that was using AI was this interesting little dictionary pen that you could scan words back in the 90s. I think some of you may not have even been born at the time, or some of you were children, so you may have missed it. It was really short-lived, but it existed. It was sort of a precursor to current Google Translate. So that was it until 2012 came. And then in 2012, a new architecture called convolutional neural networks has soundly beaten all of the existing image analysis or image classification algorithms that have been developed during the decades that preceded that time. Now, that was the AI revolution, or the first one of them, because after that, only 3 years later in 2015, AI has already surpassed human capacity for image analysis on certain benchmarks. After that, 2018, 2019, AI has surpassed human performance on text understanding and logical inference. And about the same time, 2018, we saw the dawn of a new tool, AlphaFold, which was an example of many tools that came afterwards that could predict accurately the folding of proteins. So AI began to understand text, images, and even chemistry and biology, which is incredible. By now, many of the traditionally human tasks like gaming, like logics, like inference, like visual inference, have already been surpassed by AI in performance. So this is a really exciting field to be in. But to make the connection to medicine, I'd like to ask a question just so it hangs in the background of why don't we see AI surpassing human performance in medicine? Because we don't. There are plenty of applications, there are plenty of startups, there are plenty of tools already used by radiologists. As a matter of fact, some of them sort of pass through that border of health tech and med tech, because many of them are provided with existing medical technological tools like MRI machines, like ultrasound machines. These already have AI built into them that assists radiologists. Another thing I'd like you to think of are the recent news of the new Nobel laureates. Just think about it. 4 people got Nobel Prizes for developing AI. These are 2 people from DeepMind, the same group, actually the same people that have developed AlphaFold. They got a Nobel Prize in chemistry. There is Adam Baker from University of Washington, who runs a lab, who heads a lab that also develops or does research in analytical tools of to analyze proteins and to synthesize proteins. And another got a Nobel Prize for physics, and that's Geoffrey Hinton, who is considered by many to be the godfather of the entire field of machine learning. So it's the first time in history that people got Nobel for software. And it's definitely not going to be the last. So we are all in a really, really, really interesting field, because I don't believe many startups can exist without the backbone of AI. So I was thinking about topics to talk about for this event, because if we're talking about entrepreneurship in general, there are several components that must be there for a startup to succeed. First of all, it must have funding. So we had Irit talk about that. Then it must have data, if it has anything to do with the recent technologies and AI. And we had Emil to speak about it. It has to have a problem. It has to have an existing need in the medical area to solve some painful problem. And we have Shai to speak about these. So the only thing left to me is the actual technology. And luckily, I am wearing both hats of research and industry to hopefully be able to talk a little bit about that without getting into too much detail. But please feel free to ask questions during the question round about that. So I'd like to start with talking about some trends in the digital healthcare that I have been witness to, because I got into healthcare around 2010 when I was finishing my PhD and starting my postdoc. And I got into the field of AI in 2013, shortly after this revolution. So I was witness to many of the processes that happened in the field. And what I can say about the recent trends is that, first of all, the field of AI seems to be moving from single task solutions, like analysis of a certain modality in radiology, for example, analysis of mammograms, trying to find cancer tumors or trying to predict the occurrence of cancer in women based on their history of mammograms, or I don't know, specific interaction of, say, say specific drugs or specific type of drugs like chemical drugs, small molecule drugs with certain targets in the human body. It seems to be so that the field is now moving to multitask problems, meaning that even if our tool is supposed to solve some task, the data, the different tasks we will be training our system on should be much more diverse. So if it's a mammography analysis, then we should be looking also into any image modality there is in medicine, MRI, X-ray, ultrasound, CT, anything you can get your hands on, anything that has lots of data, because there is no such thing as useless data. One of the reasons for that, at least in my belief, in my understanding, is the sort of philosophical concept of every big thing being composed of smaller things. So we humans are used to dealing with big things. So for us, a single task is something that we're used to solving. We're trying to become specialists in radiology, so we study radiology. We don't learn to read from ground up and then move on to chemistry, medicine, math, radiology. So this is something we're used to. Machine learning does not work that way. Machine learning has to understand everything from the most basic building blocks. So either we have a single task for which we have to acquire lots of data, huge amounts, millions and billions of data points, or we try to make shortcuts by introducing additional tasks that teach the model all those basics so that the real data, the real task-related data could be used for the actual improvement of performance of an already existing system. So this is one thing. Another thing is drug development, and I'll talk about it on the next slide. And yet another direction is open sourcing. So in the beginning, 10 years ago, all of the companies that have worked with AI were really secretive. Everything was a trade secret. Recently, we see that many research groups, but that's obvious in the academia, but also many of the larger companies start to release their code. There usually are some limits. For example, and if it's unclear to anyone, please raise a hand. I'll be happy to explain more. But usually the code that's being supplied is inference code, meaning that you can use an existing model to run to analyze some inputs, but you cannot train the model further. You do not have the permissions for that. But recently that is also changing. As a matter of fact, IBM will be releasing much of its code base on drug discovery later this month. So these are the current trends. And if you could go to the next slide, please, I'll talk a little bit more about drug development. Yes, so maybe even the next slide. I think it's more visually clear. Yeah, so drug development consists both in terms of time investment and in terms of capital investment of around 40% research and development, about 8% preclinical trials, and about 52% clinical trials. It all, of course, depends on the studies. These numbers change quite wildly from one to another study, but these are the numbers in average. Developing a single drug takes around $2.5 billion and around 14 years. So if we get into the R&D, we can save almost half that time and half that money, which is incredible. There is a huge market for that, and there's lots of money involved in that. So that is a strong AI potential. What's more, if we develop strong enough AI tools, we can actually save also on preclinical and clinical trials as well by developing drugs that have more chance to pass final clinical trials. So this is something definitely to keep in mind if you're thinking about ideas. Okay, my earphones say to recharge battery, so if I stop being heard, please just I don't know, notify me somehow and I'll switch. That's actually what we are currently doing in IBM, and we're collaborating with huge companies and research centers. One of the collaborations is with Boehringer Ingelheim, which is the largest privately owned pharma company, and with Cleveland Clinic and a lot of other places. And one of the reasons, and could you turn to the next slide, Irina, are these 4 little bullets. So if you recall the question I asked in the beginning of why we haven't surpassed human performance in medicine yet, I believe the answer or the roadblocks to that goal are the following. One is data, and it has to do with the accuracy or with the performance of any model, of any AI-based model that's being developed. Another one, and I put it under data because it has a lot to do with it, is trust. Trust in the performance, trust in the model, in the results you're being given. And the other half of the story is legislation. Part of it being data access, because medical data belongs to the patient, so how can you access it? And Emil gave a great talk. It's really encouraging to hear that there is progress both in Latvia and in Europe on that front. And another thing is developer protection, because if you develop a medical tool and a medical professionalist bases his or her decision on that tool, who will take the responsibility if something goes wrong? So this is also really important. You have to understand that there may be a point in history or in the future where laws will pass that will make you, as developers of AI based medical tools, to take responsibility for those tools. So to go back a little bit more and talk in more detail, so trust, at least I believe, will be relatively simple. We tend to trust things that work. I love giving this example of my last trip to Latvia, when I started using this little button called automated cruise control in my car. This is basically something that keeps distance to the cars that drive before you while not going over the set speed limit. Now, I was really suspicious of it at first. After a couple of days of driving to Saaremaa and back, I basically let go and start just holding the wheel and steering the car to stay on the road, almost not touching the gas pedal. It was incredible. And I am the last person to trust AI because I know how most of it works. So the main point is accuracy, and accuracy is data. Because the examples we have of things that surpass human performance are all fields that are really rich in data. That's natural images. There's huge amount of them on the internet. Open data sets have billions of images. There's text, again, something internet is completely full of. There's proteins and chemical elements. Again, huge open data sets out there. NCBI, which is a repository in the United States, maintained by the United States Ministry of Health, I think, or some other governmental agency. It holds basically all of the raw data that researchers have uploaded to it. And there's huge amounts of information. There are billions of protein sequences, of antibody sequences. Anything that you want, you can get there or on the internet, especially after the emergence of AlphaFold. So there's lots of data there. There is less data in medical imaging, unfortunately. Even if we take all of the medical images of a single country, we get millions of them, maybe close to 1 billion. if we could use all of the data, we could probably come up with a good AI tool, but not something that would surpass human performance. We need cross-country cooperation for that. If we could access all of the images in Europe or in the United States, it would be more possible. But again, this is something limited by legislation. And during the time I spent on the PMNet forum, I became really hopeful of where this field is going, of the direction this field is moving, because I see some countries that already are already becoming much more open in that respect. As I saw in Sweden, I believe they have, and in Denmark, I think they have a data that's available for use in the entire country, even secondary use, meaning that you can use data that was supplied for some different study by patients. So that's a really positive outlook. There are data sets in the United States, which is even more cautious about patient privacy, that share medical records, or not medical records, I'm sorry, that share insurance claims of patients, of around 250 million patients, which is almost all of the population of the United States. It's a little bit less than that because a patient changes when they move to a different insurance provider, but still it's huge amount. It's a huge amount of information. So it is possible, and the future looks promising in that respect. Whether the future will come sooner or later depends on both on the governments and on the younger generation to push these ideas, to push them to fruition. And I hope the process is starting, at least from the impression I got at the PMNet forum. So that's what I wanted to say about the technology. Now, I had a couple of words about entrepreneurship. Yes, Irina?
I'm sorry, we are quite tight on time because Dr. Yaniv needs to leave us sharply at 3:30. So if you could just go a little bit.
Yeah, actually, this is what I wanted to say. Mm-hmm. I'd love to talk more about it during the question session. So please feel free to move on.
Great, perfect. Thank you so very much. Thank you. This is really valuable information, and I'm glad we are recording this webinar for everyone to listen to it once again. And now our last but not least speaker, Dr. Shai Izraeli. Professor Izraeli is the director of the Pediatric Hematology and Oncology Division at the world-known Schneider Children's Medical Center in Israel. He holds numerous titles and roles in Israel, in United States, in Europe, in different institutions and associations. Professor Izraeli is a very distinguished medical doctor and member of many organizations worldwide. Because the list of his titles goes like for a page, I must only, because of time constraint, mention that he is the author of more than 200 peer-reviewed scientific publications, and what's most important is that his research has led to discoveries translated to novel cancer diagnostics and therapies in children oncology. And I think so many, even I would say thousands of people are grateful to Professor Izraeli. The presentation of Professor Izraeli contains some graphic imagery just to give a warning for everyone who is not coming from medicine. And Professor Izraeli, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for this too kind introduction, for invitation to this meeting. I think I'm the only one from the academia and health system itself. And I learned a lot, really a lot from the previous three speakers. And I'm actually now in Latvia still. So, and I'm sorry that I didn't meet Vadim, that also was here. So I want to give you, although I'm a pediatric oncologist, I'm also a scientist and I'm a physician scientist, and my major field is precision oncology, both in adult and pediatrics. And I'll give you a couple of examples of what do we mean by precision oncology. Next slide, please. So I'll give you the areas of precision oncology. One can talk about two areas. One, of course, is research and diagnostics. We focus on genomics, but there are other omics, like proteomics, for example, lots of development in proteomics. And of course, diagnostic is essential for treatment. So the other arm of this is treatment, clinical trials, gene, cell therapy, etc. Next slide, please. So this is really something that is very important. I think there is urgent need for much improved tumor diagnostics. And we really we need, I believe that the combination of the advanced technology on one hand and of advanced AI or data science will improve tumor diagnostic. And I think that there are many startups in this field. Next slide. For example, the current genomic diagnostic is too complicated. It's really too complicated. And you can see the number of instruments here, very complex wet lab. You need a lot of material, a lot of DNA. The capital costs are enormous. The time that it takes to get results is incredible. And what I don't mention here is that analysis today, bioinformatics today is done by people, not by AI. And that's an area that really need to be done by automation and not by people. Next slide. So we focus our effort on this, transforming this by moving to a technology which is much simpler. This is a technology that's called nanopore technology that the diagnostics is based on measuring the response, the effect on electrical current of single DNA molecules. You see that the instrument is, pretty small. It's like a disc on key, so to speak. And what is really fantastic is the time to turn around is very quick, around 2 hours from the collection of the material. And what we did not invent the technology, but we are inventing applications. So I'll give you 2 examples. One example in the next slide is the diagnosis of brain tumors by what we call DNA methylation. I will not go into all the biology, but using very small amount of material that was previously not believed to be relevant to this specific technology. And then the next example is using this technology in order to diagnose and follow up cancer from blood tests by following the DNA that is shed from the tumor. This area of blood tests to diagnose and follow solid tumors all around the body, whether it's in the brain, in the bowel, in the lung, in the hands, etc., in the bones, etc. is really developing very fast. There is a lot of space here for companies, and that's true not only for DNA. What we are a genomic lab. We focus on DNA, but also true for proteomics, for very specific proteins that are shed by cancer. And I think there is a lot of space here for further development. Next slide. And if we move now to the therapeutic parts, next, this contains animation. So next, and skip here. So what we, go back. Can you go back? Yeah, keep here. So what we specifically are interested in modifying immune cells in order to teach them either to attack tumors or to attack viruses, because we don't have antibiotics for viruses. So what we need is to wait to harvest cells, immune cells from the body, and re-educate them to fight viruses and put them back into the patient. And below you see two tools that are absolutely needed for this. One is gene editing, and we have been part. There was a huge consortium in Israel called CRISPR-IL. CRISPR is a technology that received the Nobel Prize for gene editing. And what you see on the right side is an instrumentation in order to perform all these very complicated maneuvers in an environment, a closed environment, so not to get the material infected before it's being fused back to the patients. Now, I warn you, I'll give example of clinical trial, and I really warns you about the graphic images, but I thought nevertheless to give them. So of course, the dream is to have targeted therapy. So let me give you an extreme example. Next slide. This is a child with a very, it's a newborn. It's not a newborn, but it's a couple of months old baby. You see this huge tumor in the chest. You don't need to be a physician to understand that you cannot operate this tumor. But we enrolled him in a clinical trial with a very promising drug. It was a promising drug at that time. It got approved since then. And this you see after 2 weeks of therapy. And the next slide, after 8 weeks of therapy, you see this remarkable response. And the next example, next slide. This is a newborn with this terrible tumor, hard to look at. And look at, you can pass the slides on, look what happens in therapy, and just 11 weeks of therapy and the child got cured. Now, I show you this, and this drug was approved very, very quickly, and I show you this slide. You see Irina cannot look at it, so she immediately passed to the next slide. And I showed you these slides actually to show you the wrong example. Because I saw a question from somebody, can we say something about the problem? What are the culprits of clinical trial? You know what? And the most common, in my experience, the most common mistake of, especially of small companies, clinical trials are very expensive, so it's very hard to raise the money. So you have the money, you want to run the clinical trial, and there are two common mistakes in my experience. One common mistake is to overestimate the power of your drug. Most of the drugs that goes into clinical trial fail. And those that are successful are not as magical as the example that I have just shown you. Not magical at all. So they are, and they get approved, but they give only a 20% improvement in the result, and not a fantastic all or none result. And this is important because many clinical trials are underpowered. So too few patients are enrolled because the goal was to save money. And the result of saving money, that the clinical trial was not informative at all. So this is one mistake, one common mistake that is done. And then the other common mistake that is done, that the trial is not specific enough. It's very important today in the era of precision medicine to involve in the trial only and only those patients that the diagnostics showed that they may respond to the drug. And that's why even in a clinical trial, it's very important to invest in diagnostics. And for anyone who want advice on precision medicine, we are there to help you. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much, Professor Izraeli, for sharing your knowledge and expertise. And before Dr. Irit leaves us, I think maybe there is a chance for us to ask and address her with the question and continue about clinical trials that Professor Izraeli has already started tackling. We got a question via the registration from our community, the Latvian community. What are successful examples and common mistakes of clinical trials of healthcare technologies, right? How not to mistaken being an investor, I would even continue. So if we may, then I would ask Dr. Irit Yaniv still to maybe on her opinion about the trials in general, in the eyes of investor. How far, how deep would you go?
Yeah, so thank you. And yes, we are taking very seriously the trials that are done before registration, because those trials will not only support the registration, this is the first step, but they should support also the marketing, the sales and marketing activities and the success of the product later on. So we would like to see studies that are well-powered, enough, sufficient amount of patients that are in, and the design should be such that can help not only the registration, but can help also doctors later on to adopt the technology. We see many times that companies are, I would say, doing shortcuts, and they say, okay, the registration is very simple. We can do a very small study and get the registration done. In the case of US, usually in 510K, which is the easiest way to market. Sometimes they do require clinical studies, sometimes they don't. And companies are saying, okay, let's do the simple way to get into the market, to get the FDA approval, and later on we'll take care of the rest. We don't like it as investors, and the way we are handling it, we give lower valuation to those companies that don't have the right clinical data in order to convince us and later on the physicians. So we do review the clinical trials, we do review the data, and we usually go with the data, with the clinical trials, and ask doctors what their opinion is in order to get confident. The other point that companies should make sure is that once they do a clinical study and it was completed successfully, hopefully, they should take care of publication, to publish it either in a journal, in a peer-reviewed journal, or in a large conference. So this is also gives us a lot of confidence of the level and the quality of the data. So make sure that you do it right, and then you don't need to do it twice.
So what would be the best financial source for clinical trial then? Because the VC will not finance them for data collection. And then would it be the multinational corporation, the government?
Sometimes there are VCs that are finance clinical studies. I mean, even Almeda, we finance 2 of our companies. We have invested before the pivotal study, before the study that was required to get FDA approval, and we finance them. We actually like to finance clinical studies because if you have some data before the major clinical study, you can actually get a lot of the risk mitigate because you have the clinical study, you know how to design the study, and you can think very clearly on the results. So especially in medical device and digital health, there are VCs that finance clinical studies. Other ways of finance them, the European International Bank, the EIB, usually support those stages, and this can be as a grant or an equity. So this is a good way to match what investors are bringing to you. And there are grants, all over in the US, like the NIH or other grants that may help you as well. So I would say, look at the VCs that support clinical studies and look for a grant that can match those VCs.
Perfect. Thank you so very much. Next is the question that we have received. Is a medical education necessary to start a business in health tech? The resistance tends to be high when a non-expert, for example, manager, starts cooperating with an expert, for example, a specialist in medical fields. This is what we see maybe in Latvia or elsewhere in Europe. I think Dr. Irit already has addressed this in her presentation, that teamwork, and close cooperation between multidisciplinary in diverse fields is essential to establish a successful business in health tech. You still can.
Absolutely. I think that in Israel, it is very popular that engineers start a health tech business or data science can start it. But what is important is that you will collaborate with a medical or a education person. It can be a physician, it can be a nurse. It depends on the field. But I'm not going to invest in health tech into a group that is only engineers. So this is something that I will never do. But I don't care to have a group that started from an engineer and that he has next to him a physician that works shoulder to shoulder with him. Then that's fine. I don't need a medical educated guy to start the startup.
Actually, if I can add, I, as a physician and a scientist, love when someone comes to me not from the field with an idea, because this is a huge advantage. Because I think within a tunnel, my tunnel, and then somebody comes from outside the tunnel. So of course you cannot go and look for money without sitting with someone like me and designing something that is really relevant to medicine. But such either a businessman or an engineer coming with an idea, wow, that's fantastic. Quite often it's better than a physician coming with an idea.
Great, thank you so much. Emil,
I have to leave, but if there are questions for me, Irina, you know my email, and please feel free. Absolutely. And I'll be happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reed. Thank you very much. Any other speakers, Emīls and Vadim, if you would like to add anything to this teamwork topic, you're very welcome to do it shortly.
Irina, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I had a problem with my microphone. Okay, so there is something I'd like to add to this last topic, because, again, I want to emphasize how important it is to work with experts in the field, but also for the technical people, how important it is to acquire as much knowledge of the medical field as possible. From our experience in our group, we have, when we were working with medical images, we sort of became kind of mediocre but radiologists. I still can tell between an inflamed and non-inflamed lymph gland in a medical image, both in ultrasound and in mammography, where I can quite accurately assess the bias of most images. But that's just an example. Why am I saying this? Because most of the ideas we've had came from actually studying the field, not just developing some solution for a given problem, but really getting deep into the medicine or into the biology, into the immunology problem, and that's where ideas start happening on this seam between the different disciplines. So this, in my opinion, is really, really important, not just to make a good product, but actually to get ideas to improve either existing products or make new ones.
Great, thank you. I will run through the other questions, as we have plenty of them. The regulatory roadmap to start commercializing Class 2A medical imaging device in Israel. And that's a question from one of our respectful startups and inventors in Latvia. Maybe Professor Izraeli has an idea, or either of the remaining speakers here. Otherwise, I will take it upon myself and find out, and will send you the precise reply in an email afterwards.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry, this is really outside my field. Sorry.
Okay, sure. Now let's go further. Is there a good role for me in HealthTech if I'm an expert in the fields of electronics, electrical engineering, mechatronics, and surface treatment technologies? I guess the answer is yes, of course, but if any of the speakers would like to add something, you're welcome.
Actually, in Israel, electrical engineering is now almost synonymous to software, to computer science. Basically, most of it is also about software development. But I'm assuming from the other fields mentioned that it's more hardware-oriented. So this sounds like something much closer to medtech that you've mentioned. Definitely, but it always depends on the specific field. I can say from my experience, I've seen people moving between fields. If the individual is open enough and willing to learn new disciplines, then having studied such relatively diverse fields means that they can get into also software development and also medicine. So it will require some additional education, but yes, definitely.
Okay, next one. How to deal with regulatory constraints in the health sector. And I think this one would be addressed to Emīls, if we still have you with us. I can't see because I'm sharing the screen. Emīl, if you're here with us. So yes, we do know that the regulatory constraints do exist still in Latvia, although we got quite a big appraisal for developing the digital health. and the specific institution is being established right now as we are speaking under the Ministry of Health in Latvia. It's a big question, I think, that needs to be addressed also with the Ministry of Health. And let's move further on. What is missing that anyone can start a business of their interest at the moment? What can the private sector do alone? Again, the question about teamwork, this aspect is very significant here. It's also a very philosophical or rhetoric question here that requires kind of an hour-long discussion. But thank you very much for raising the thoughts about that. Definitely within my agency, Latvian Investment and Development Agency, we do work to support any businessman and any startup, starting from the high school children and students in the university who would like to establish their startup. What are your thoughts on the readiness of telemedicine, which is quite a big deal here in Israel, especially during the COVID times? People were able to communicate to their doctors through their mobile phones. And there is this famous technology for the pregnant women to do the ultrasound at home with a special device where the image of the belly is getting sent onto the screen of her doctor. Any comments here, dear speakers?
No, just to say that this is widely used. I mean, we use telemedicine a lot.
Also, I think it's important to distinguish what we mean by telemedicine, because on the one hand, what you've mentioned, Irina, the entire field of communication between doctor and patient, I think in Israel, it's the first, talking to a doctor over over an application is the first step of the healthcare process, right? But perhaps it's more traditionally used in the definition that's more traditionally used for telemedicine is actually what we see in movies, like a surgeon performing his work with a robot some hundreds and thousands of miles across, and there are multiple challenges in that field as well. For example, the time it takes the signal to travel back and forth is a really important consideration. So I wonder what was the meaning that the listener had on their mind when they asked this question.
Might be a good topic for the next webinar, where we can focus just on telemedicine and go deeper, right? So analysis of the Latvian e-health project. Here we cannot, suffice without the Ministry of Health experts. I'm not tackling that right now, unfortunately, but thank you for the question. Another good topic for another event. Successful examples and common mistakes in clinical trials. I already took that for Dr. Yaniv. One of the last ones, where can I seek advice and support for the development of a mobile health app in Latvia? I would take that myself. In the Investment and Development Agency, we do operate, we do have several programs open for support of digitalization. So initiatives in digitalizing any area, including HealthTech, are open for the grants. And another grant program is called Prototyping Grant Program, where you can receive up to 50,000 euro to finish your prototype in specific area. Besides that, we have a large network of incubators in entire Latvia. They are more than 20, geographically located in different towns of Latvia. There is this support as well. So, dear all, I'm now stopping sharing the screen. If we do have more questions, I'm opening the chat. Question to Dr. Ratner: how do doctors in Israel use AI in their day-to-day work life? Eliza?
Well, first of all, this is not exactly my field. My field is more of a research on the other side of the usage. But I can say a couple of things as a patient, because I do see quite a lot of AI being used in an assistant sort of way, for example, to the radiologist, like delimiting a tumor or measuring tumors, or some time-saving technologies that, as I mentioned, already come built in with existing medical machines. So that's the immediate thing. But I do believe Shai can elaborate on that much further.
Well, I think that in the field of diagnostics, as Vadim just said, we use AI without knowing that we are using AI, because this is in the, it's in the process itself. Regarding I think we are on the verge of using an AI for medical information. There is a site that is called UpToDate, that is not AI. It actually, but it's the most common used database now for study. So if there is a disease or drug I want to hear about, the most update, I go to UpToDate. UpToDate is written by hundreds and hundreds of experts. I think this will be replaced, and I would not be surprised if this is going to be replaced soon. There is a study that came, an incredible study, that came from Israel and was published in the most so-called important, whatever important means, a medical journal, New England Journal of Medicine, and in which it showed that the AI, that ChatGPT 3.5, and now we're at 4, I think, or maybe 4. This doesn't matter. The ChatGPT, the most advanced GPT that was at the time of writing the paper, passed the Israeli medical board examination in several topics. And I'm convinced, therefore, that the next thing that we will see, must see, next thing that if I see a patient, I want to see whether it fits something, instead of opening a textbook or opening PubMed. PubMed is the general resource for journal articles, etc. I will just ask ChatGPT, or an AI program that maybe will be even. I say ChatGPT because I don't know different. That's the only name of something that I know from an AI, but an AI program that was dedicated to this. So I think this will become. This is tomorrow, really tomorrow. Not saying tomorrow and meaning 10 years from now.
Thank you very much, Professor Izraeli, and all our distinguished speakers. We actually ran out of time for now. And we do have the recording of this webinar that will be published on LIAA YouTube channel soon. So this is really worth to rewatch, I think. I have your questions with me, and I'm here connecting Israel and Latvia in many other sectors, but in health tech also. to help you and find the answers to your questions and find big partners for your projects. Thank you very much, everyone. With this, we will conclude the meeting. Have a good day.